Warning: what if the pills you've trusted for years were quietly erasing your memory, one pill at a time? You've taken them daily, without question. But now, some of the most common meds for pain, sleep, or even allergies are being linked to brain fog, confusion, even dementia. Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why? Or stared at someone familiar without remembering their name? It may not be just aging. It could be your brain waving a red flag. And the culprit might be right in your medicine cabinet. Backhand index pointing right. In this video, we'll uncover 10 everyday medications now tied to memory loss in seniors. And midway through, we'll reveal one powerful, science-backed strategy to protect your brain, even if you're still taking these drugs. Speech balloon: if this feels personal or reminds you of someone you love, please like this video and subscribe to Senior Health Tips. Your support helps us protect more seniors, just like you. Pushpin, stay with us. Medication number 10 may be the most surprising of all. Now let's dive in. Medication 1. Anxiety and sleep aids, benzodiazepines. Imagine trying to quiet a noisy room by turning off the lights. That's what these medications do to your brain. They mute the chaos, but also dim your clarity. Medications often used for anxiety or sleep disorders work by slowing brain activity. While they can offer short-term relief, long-term use has been linked to memory problems and cognitive decline. In older adults, the brain becomes more sensitive. What once felt like a gentle, calming breeze might now feel like a storm of confusion. Studies show a strong link between long-term use of these calming pills and increased dementia risk. What's more, these medications can quietly build dependence. Many seniors find themselves stuck in a cycle, taking them every night, then needing more to get the same result. And before they know it, their mental clarity has started to fade. It often starts innocently. Just one pill on a sleepless night, then another the next time you're anxious. Eventually, it becomes a nightly habit, until it's hard to tell where the pill ends and your personality begins. Some older adults describe it as feeling like they're underwater, watching their life unfold, but not fully part of it. As we age, our liver processes medications more slowly. That means these pills linger longer in the body, building up and intensifying their effects. What felt mild at age 50 can become overwhelming at 70. But here's the hopeful part. There are ways to feel calm, sleep better, and reduce anxiety without sacrificing your brain power. Light therapy, warm baths, gentle stretching, lavender aromatherapy, mindfulness exercises, and consistent sleep routines have all shown remarkable results in older adults. Even something as simple as listening to soft music or using a weighted blanket can reduce nighttime anxiety. This isn't about blaming anyone. These prescriptions were often given with good intentions. But today we know more, and it's our responsibility to use that knowledge wisely. White heavy checkmark: why it matters. These drugs can cloud memory, slow thinking, and cause confusion, especially in aging minds. Light bulb tip: ask your doctor about non-drug therapies for anxiety or insomnia, like meditation, light therapy, warm milk before bed, or cognitive behavioral therapy. Consider a medication review every 6 months. Backhand index pointing right. Next, a common allergy pill that seems harmless, but may not be as innocent as it looks. It could be quietly turning off the very switch your brain needs to stay sharp. Medication 2. Allergy and bladder medications, anticholinergics. You wouldn't silence your car's check engine light to avoid a repair, right? But that's exactly what some medications do in the brain. They block vital chemical signals without fixing the deeper issue. Anticholinergics are found in medications for allergies, bladder issues, and colds. They block acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter key to memory and focus. And here's the tricky part. As we age, we naturally produce less of it. Adding a drug that blocks even more? That's a recipe for confusion. These medications might seem harmless. After all, They're sold over the counter in many cases. But research consistently links their use to cognitive decline, especially in older adults. The damage often comes slowly, silently. Ever feel like you're forgetting words or losing your train of thought more often? It might not be just aging. It could be your meds, whispering behind the scenes. Let's paint a picture. A man in his early 70s, healthy, active, still playing golf every Saturday. He starts taking an allergy pill daily in spring. A year later, he's misplacing keys, forgetting tea times, and repeating himself. His family chalks it up to aging, but when he stops the medication, some clarity returns. The culprit? A drug that blocked acetylcholine. It's not just allergy meds. Bladder medications often fall into this category too. The urge to pee less might come at the cost of thinking clearly. So what can you do? Why it matters. Blocking acetylcholine is like turning off the brain's internal light switch. The longer it's off, the dimmer your world may become. Light bulb tip: for allergies, consider non-drowsy antihistamines like loratadine. For bladder issues, ask your doctor about pelvic floor therapy, bladder training, or even dietary triggers. Stay hydrated, but avoid bladder irritants like caffeine or artificial sweeteners. Backhand index pointing right coming up. One older class of antidepressants still commonly used and still carrying cognitive risks. And the reason it's still prescribed might surprise you. Medication 3. Old school antidepressants, tricyclics. Some medications age like fine wine, others, like milk left out too long. And these? They belong in the second category. Tricyclic antidepressants were once hailed as a breakthrough in mental health. But for seniors today, they may do more harm than good. These medications were designed to help lift mood by increasing certain brain chemicals like serotonin and norepinephrine. But what's often forgotten is that they also block acetylcholine. Yes, that same vital brain chemical that supports memory, learning, and focus. And when older adults already produce less acetylcholine naturally, adding a blocker can be like pulling the plug on a dimming light. Let me walk you through a real-life story. A woman in her 60s began taking one of these antidepressants after the loss of her husband. It helped her get through the grief. But over time, her family noticed something odd. She'd pause mid-sentence, forget names, and seem detached. They worried she was depressed again. But the truth? Her medication had gradually dulled her cognitive sharpness. Tricyclics can also cause drowsiness, dry mouth, blurred vision, and increase the risk of falling, an especially dangerous issue for older adults living alone. One small misstep can change everything. The irony? In many cases, these drugs are still prescribed out of habit when newer, gentler options are available. Why it matters. These older antidepressants can act like a slow fog creeping in, dulling memory, delaying reaction time, and quietly raising fall risk. Lightbulb tip: ask your doctor about newer antidepressants like SSRIs or SNRIs. Many work just as well for mood without sabotaging your memory. Don't be afraid to ask, is there a safer option for my age? Backhand index pointing right next up. Medications used for severe mental illness, and why they can be a double-edged sword for aging brains. One surprise might be how often they're used outside of psychiatry. Medication 4. Antipsychotic drugs. These medications were developed to calm the storms of severe mental illness, delusions, paranoia, extreme agitation. But in older adults, they don't just quiet the storm, they can also silence the sunlight. Imagine trying to dim one noisy part of your mind, only to find the lights going out in the rest of your brain. That's what antipsychotic medications can do. They don't always discriminate. They suppress symptoms, but they can also suppress you. Originally intended for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, these medications are now sometimes used off-label in older adults for things like agitation or aggression related to dementia. But here's the catch. The risks in seniors are vastly higher. Brain shrinkage. memory loss, increased risk of falls, in some cases, even early death. Let's put this into a real-world example. A caregiver once described her husband's transformation. Once sharp and witty, he became slower, quieter, withdrawn, after being prescribed an antipsychotic to manage nighttime restlessness. The medicine worked, but too well. It didn't just calm his behavior. It muted his essence. And sometimes these drugs are used as a shortcut, a chemical restraint when what's really needed is patience, environment changes, or deeper understanding. A familiar face, a calming routine, music that brings back joy. That's not to say antipsychotics should never be used. In some cases, they're necessary, but they must be treated with extreme caution, especially in older adults with dementia. White heavy checkmark, why it matters. These medications may dull your personality, impair thinking, and even reduce life expectancy in seniors with cognitive issues. Light bulb tip. Always ask why the medication is being prescribed and whether behavior-based interventions have been tried. Involve a geriatric psychiatrist if possible. Non-drug approaches like music, lighting, and routine can sometimes do what pills cannot. Backhand index pointing right. What's next? A stomach pill that seems totally safe, but may quietly block the brain's access to essential nutrients. You won't believe how common it is. Speech balloon. If you found this helpful so far, or believe someone in your life should hear this, drop a comment and subscribe. It helps us create more life-saving content for seniors just like you. Medication 5. Acid reducers, H2 blockers. Your brain doesn't live in isolation. It relies on nutrients from food. And guess who helps absorb those nutrients? Your stomach acid. H2 blockers reduce stomach acid to ease reflux or ulcers. But they also reduce your ability to absorb vitamin B12 and magnesium, both essential to brain health. Over time, that can quietly erode your mental sharpness. You may feel fine for months, maybe even years. But then, the fog sets in, so slowly you might not even notice it. A missed appointment here. A forgotten conversation there. Is it old age? Or is it the medication you've taken every morning for 10 years? Let's take Bob, a retired teacher in his 70s. He had a long history of acid reflux and was placed on a daily H2 blocker. At first, the relief was immediate. But over time, his memory started slipping. His doctor initially suspected mild cognitive decline, but a deeper look revealed his B12 levels were dangerously low. Once the medication was adjusted and supplements were added, Bob began feeling more like himself again. This story is more common than you might think. White heavy checkmark, why it matters. Poor absorption of brain nutrients can mimic and even worsen early cognitive decline in seniors. Light bulb tip. Consider lifestyle-based reflux fixes, elevating the head of your bed, cutting evening snacks, limiting caffeine. And if you must use H2 blockers, ask about cycling off periodically or checking nutrient levels. Backhand index pointing right. Up next. Seizure medications that help many, but may have silent side effects hiding in the shadows. And for some, the change isn't subtle, it's life-altering. Medication 6. Anti-seizure medications. These medications are often life-saving, designed to calm the electrical storms in the brain that cause seizures. But what if, in quieting those storms, they also dim the lights of your thinking? Anti-seizure drugs can slow down brain activity, not just the overactivity that causes seizures, but also the parts that control memory, alertness, and emotion. For older adults, whose brains may already be more sensitive to changes in chemistry, the effects can be even more profound. Let's meet Helen. She's 68 and has managed her mild epilepsy for years. But after her dosage increased, her family noticed she seemed different. She was more tired, slower to respond, and sometimes forgot what she was saying halfway through a sentence. Turns out, her medication, though controlling the seizures, was also affecting the way her brain processed thoughts. And she's not alone. Studies show that long-term use of certain anti-seizure drugs is associated with memory problems, difficulty concentrating, and even increased dementia risk in seniors. But don't panic. This doesn't mean these medications should be stopped. It means they must be managed with precision. White heavy checkmark why it matters. These drugs can protect your brain from seizures, but may quietly chip away at mental clarity over time. Light bulb tip. If you take anti-seizure meds, work with your doctor to monitor dose, explore newer generation options, and regularly assess cognitive function. Also, don't underestimate the power of good sleep, low-stress routines, and a balanced diet rich in brain-supportive nutrients. Backhand index pointing right. Next up, cholesterol-lowering medications, heroes of heart health. But are they silently affecting your memory? Medication 7. Cholesterol medications, statins. Statins are praised for saving lives, lowering cholesterol, reducing stroke risk, and protecting the heart. But could they be doing something else, deep inside the brain? These medications reduce cholesterol by blocking an enzyme in the liver. But cholesterol isn't just a villain. It's also essential for the brain. It helps form cell membranes and aids communication between brain cells. When that process is disrupted, memory might suffer. Some older adults on long-term statin therapy report brain fog, forgetfulness, or difficulty concentrating. Not everyone experiences this, but the concern is real enough that researchers are still debating whether statins slightly increase, reduce, or have no effect on dementia risk. Let's consider Ed. He's 73 and healthy, active, and on statins for over a decade. Lately, he's noticed it takes him longer to find words. His doctor ran memory tests, checked his medications, and adjusted his statin dose. Within weeks, Ed reported feeling sharper again. This doesn't mean statins are dangerous, but it does mean that one-size-fits-all might not apply to aging brains. White heavy checkmark why it matters. Some seniors may be more sensitive to statins' effects on brain chemistry, especially at higher doses or over many years. Lightbulb tip, never stop statins without medical advice. Instead, review your dosage, consider CoQ10 supplementation, and ask if diet or exercise can help manage cholesterol with fewer meds. Backhand index pointing right coming up, a common acid reflux treatment, available everywhere, might be slowly eroding your brain's clarity. Medication 8. Proton pump inhibitors, PPIs. These medications are among the most popular on the planet. Used for acid reflux, heartburn, and GERD, they offer fast, powerful relief. But sometimes, they trade short-term comfort for long-term cost. PPIs work by drastically reducing stomach acid. The problem? That acid plays a key role in absorbing nutrients, especially vitamin B12 and magnesium, both essential for healthy brain function. Let's talk about Alice. She's 75, sharp as a tack, but starts forgetting familiar names and misplacing things. No red flags, except for one. She's been taking a PPI daily for 8 years. Her B12 levels are rock bottom. Once she shifts to dietary changes and rotates off the PPI with her doctor's help, the mental fog begins to lift. Some studies suggest long-term PPI use may increase dementia risk by up to 44%. That's not a number we ignore. White heavy checkmark why it matters. PPIs may impact brain health by reducing the absorption of essential nutrients, especially with prolonged use. Lightbulb tip. Use the lowest dose for the shortest duration. Reassess need every 6 to 12 months. And ask about natural acid-reducing foods like bananas, oatmeal, or ginger tea. Backhand index pointing right next. A powerful pain reliever, often prescribed after surgery, may be silently rewiring your brain in ways you never expected. Medication 9. Strong painkillers, opioids. Opioids are heavy hitters, prescribed for post-surgery pain, injury, or chronic illness. But their power cuts both ways. While they dull physical pain, they can also dull mental sharpness. These medications bind to opioid receptors in the brain and spinal cord, blocking pain signals. But they also affect regions responsible for emotion, decision-making, and memory. For seniors, the risks grow even greater. Prolonged opioid use has been linked to decreased gray matter volume, brain fog, mood flattening, and even increased dementia risk. Picture John, 72, recovering from hip surgery. He's prescribed opioids for pain. Months later, he's more withdrawn, less focused, and confused at times. The culprit isn't age, it's extended opioid exposure. And let's not forget the danger of dependence. What begins as short-term use can sometimes spiral, leaving older adults in a fog they can't explain. White heavy checkmark why it matters. Long-term opioid use can cause structural brain changes and raise the risk of cognitive decline. Lightbulb tip: talk to your doctor about weaning off opioids as soon as safely possible. Explore non-opioid options like physical therapy, acupuncture, or even music therapy. Backhand index pointing right. Finally, one more surprising medication. It's not for pain, or sleep, or anxiety, but it still affects your brain. And millions take it without a second thought. Medication 10. Hormonal medications. Hormones are powerful messengers in the body. They regulate everything from mood and energy to memory and focus. So it's no surprise that hormonal medications, especially those containing estrogen and progesterone, can affect the brain. Used for birth control or hormone replacement therapy, these medications alter the delicate balance of brain chemistry. In younger women, they're often helpful, but in older adults, or with long-term use, they may slightly increase the risk of cognitive changes. For example, one study found a subtle but measurable decrease in memory performance in women who had used hormonal medications for over 10 years. Let's consider Joyce. She's 65 and has used hormone therapy for over a decade. Lately, she's noticed word-finding issues and short-term memory lapses. Her doctor adjusts her dose and explores non-hormonal alternatives. Within months, she feels clearer. While more research is needed, the message is clear. Hormones influence the brain, so we must respect their power. White heavy checkmark why it matters. Hormonal medications can affect brain chemistry and may slightly raise dementia risk with long-term use. Lightbulb tip: review hormone-based medications annually with your provider. Explore non-hormonal options like copper IUDs, lifestyle-based symptom relief, or herbal supports like black cohosh, with supervision. Final thoughts: protecting your brain, one step at a time. Now that you've seen the hidden side of 10 common medications, here's what we can all take away. Your brain is incredibly resilient, but also incredibly vulnerable to small changes over time. Medications, even those meant to help, can quietly influence your memory, focus, and clarity, especially as we age. Clipboard: what can you do right now? 1. Review your medication list, including over-the-counter ones, with your doctor or pharmacist at least once a year. 2. Ask the hard questions. Is this still necessary for me? Or is there a safer option? 3. Don't stop anything abruptly. Always consult your healthcare provider first. 4. Support your brain naturally. Sleep well, stay physically active, eat nutrient-rich foods, challenge your mind, and stay socially connected. Direct hit, and most importantly, be your own advocate. No one knows your body and your mind better than you do. If you found this video helpful, or know someone who might benefit from it, please share it with them. It could truly make a difference. White heavy checkmark, and if you want more science-backed, easy-to-follow health guidance for aging well, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Senior Health Tips. We post weekly videos just like this, designed for you, your brain, and your future. Speech balloon: hit that like button if you learned something new today, and leave a comment to tell us which medication surprised you the most. Your support keeps us going and helps us create more content to keep seniors safe, strong, and sharp.